As soon as I found out about this speech, I immediately knew who I was going to write it about. There is a man in my life who means everything to me. A man who has put up with all of my bullshit, all of my disrespect, all of the mean and nasty things I have said to him. He has watched me grow as a person and always tells me how much he loves me and how proud of me he is. I would like to read you a section of what he wrote in my most recent birthday card. You have grown up and become a very responsible person. We are both so proud that you are our daughter. But first, let me start from the beginning. When I was a little girl, there wasn't anything in the world that I loved more than my daddy. He was perfect to me. He could do absolutely no wrong, no matter how wrong he really was. He was exactly what I thought a man should be. Strong, handsome, and able to fix anything. We did everything together. We took vacations together, just him and I, without my mother and my brother. We went out to Arizona to visit my aunt, and then to California and Mexico with my cousins. It was great. Arizona was so beautiful. There were vast mountains, no matter which direction you looked. At night, the sky was a gorgeous shade of purples and reds, and when there was a storm, the lightning would shoot across the sky almost as if it were dancing. I was never so happy before, just me and my daddy against the world. On August 6, 1996, my world as I knew it came to a crashing end. It was the day after my 19th birthday. I was 4 months pregnant with my son. My father wasn't too happy about my pregnancy at first, but he began to accept it and was starting to look forward to being a grandfather. I had a wonderful birthday party the night before, where my son's father and my father had finally come to a truce. All my family and my friends were there. It was the perfect birthday. I couldn't have asked for more. The next morning, my mother came rushing to my house. She was panicking and saying that she had received a phone call that my father was in an accident at work and we were to go to the hospital right away. My mother said she just knew that it was Dad, and she thought that he was either very seriously injured or worse, dead. I thought she was overreacting, as she had done at times before. There was no way that my father, as strong and wonderful and important to me as he was, could possibly be dead. Unfortunately, this was the one time that my mother wasn't overreacting. My father was gone. I would no longer be able to hear his comforting voice, feel the warmth of his touch, see his handsome smile, or travel to the places where we made so many wonderful memories. My world was crushed. I was completely devastated. It took me years to get over the fact that my daddy was gone. I never thought that I could ever have anyone else in my life that I would ever consider my father, or that I could ever love another man in the same way that I loved my father. 7 months after my father passed away, my mother met a man on the internet. This was March 8, 1997, and back then, not many people met and had sexual relationships online like they do now. This man was Southern, retired, and did I mention from the internet? And when I saw the first picture of him, I thought he looked like a serial killer. I didn't trust him. I thought that he was just trying to get my mother's money since he knew how my father had died. My mother didn't. She fell head over heels in love with this man, and quickly. That summer, my mom decided to move this man here to my father's home. This was only after about 5 months of dating. I guess they decided they didn't want to keep driving back and forth from Pennsylvania to Georgia. To say the least, I wasn't happy, but I accepted that this was my mother's life and there was nothing I could do to stop this. His first night here, his U-Haul truck, with all of his belongings and expensive mechanic tools, were stolen. What a great way to welcome him to his new neighborhood. Not only did he have to experience this, but he also got to learn what a handful I was. I partied nonstop. I stole from my family constantly. I was mean and nasty to my mother. Did this man know what he was getting himself into? I thought, wow, he must really love my mother, or else he just really, really wants that money. After a while, I realized that there wasn't any amount of money that would keep someone around with what I was putting this wonderful, loving, caring man through. My stepfather, better known as Papa, because he is the only grandfather that my son has ever known, has taught me so much in the 10-plus years he has been a part of my life. His name is John, and he is the most wonderful, caring, and patient man that I have ever met. He spent 20 years in the Army and is a retired first-class sergeant. He is a soft-spoken, gentle, yet strong man. He stands 6 foot tall and has beautiful green eyes and a thick head of wonderful silver hair. He exudes confidence. You would never know that he was a drill sergeant because he never raises his voice. He is strict and stern in a quiet and subtle way. You can't help but respect him. John has taught me how a real man treats a woman. You see, my parents had a very rocky relationship. They were always fighting. My father had a tendency to involve me in their marital problems. When he had an affair, I was the go-between between him and his girlfriend. That wonderful story I told you about, the vacation that I had with me and my father, going to Arizona, California, and Mexico, well, my father's girlfriend also went with us. At that time, I saw nothing wrong with what my father was doing, and I thought my mother deserved all of this, and that she was the reason why my father did anything that he did that was wrong. This is no way to teach your teenage daughter about how a man should treat a woman. John treats my mother like the queen that she is. He always opens the car door for her, and even for me when I'm there. They rarely ever fight. Anything she wants to do, they do. Anything she wants, he makes sure she gets. He also treats me like his little princess. He has accepted me 100% as his own daughter. On November 11, 2000, my mom and John were married. I was supposed to be the maid of honor. I was so excited to be able to dance the father-daughter dance with him at the reception. I even had a song picked out that they were going to dance to. He Didn't Have to Be, by Brad Paisley. Every time I heard this song, I wept. This song explained exactly how I felt about John. The chorus said, and then all of a sudden, oh, it seemed so strange to me, how we went from something's missing to a family. Looking back, all I can say about all the things he did for me is I hope I'm at least half the dad that he didn't have to be. And I hope that I'm at least a quarter of a parent to my son that he is to me. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to dance to this song at their wedding. About 2 weeks before the wedding, I overdosed. My son was in the room with me. He ran downstairs and told my grandmother that I had collapsed. Thankfully, my grandmother immediately called my parents. John came up and did CPR on me until the paramedics got there, and he kept me alive. John, who I am very proud and honored to call my father, saved my life. Another example about how he is the father to me that he doesn't have to be is that when my son was around 3 years old, my mom and John helped me and my son by deciding to raise Bobby for me. This is something that I find so honorable. My stepfather was raising a grandson in what should have been his new life with his new bride, spent with my mother, not raising a child for a screwed-up stepchild. He stood by me every time that I was in and out of rehabs and jail, always hoping that this time I would change. He went as far as trusting me to move down to his house in Alabama, trying to help me away from my troubled life of addiction. He gave up the rental income he was receiving to try to save his now daughter. He has always gone above and beyond to do anything he can do to help me. Because of John, my mother is now my best friend. He has shown me what a wonderful and important person she is. When I was growing up, I blamed my mother for everything that was wrong with my father. Now I realize, because of John, that my mother wasn't to blame. She was the victim in my father's sickness and addiction. My mother is so very lucky to find a man that honors and treats her with respect. She deserves a good man after the rough life she had as a child, as a wife, and as a mother to me. When my grandmother became ill, he didn't fight and argue with my mother about moving my schizophrenic 85-year-old grandmother into their home. He worked his butt off, gutting my grandmother's house, trying to get it ready in less than a month for her to move back in when that time came. He gutted, rewired, sheetrock, fixed plumbing, built a new bathroom, and finished a kitchen, all in a home that probably should have just been demolished, by himself, with only a little help from my mom, my brother, my sister-in-law, me, my son, and my boyfriend. 98% of the work was done by him, after working a full-time job. Never once did I ever hear him complain. He has torn his knee apart, constantly leaving it draining now, because of all this work that he did. He may even end up needing surgery. Whatever we need, John always makes sure we have it. Any time that I ask for help, he is always there. He puts us before himself every day. He tells me all the time how proud he is of me. There is no way that he could be more proud of me than I am of him. He is the true and total definition of what a father should be. I love my biological father. He was my best friend my whole adolescent life. Never did I think that anyone could come close to filling the gaping hole in my heart that I had from losing my father. John has filled that gap, and although no one will ever replace what my father meant to me as a child, John is now, in my heart, in my mind, and in my soul, my father. I love him, and I am so lucky to have him in my life. Not many people get a second chance after losing a parent. I consider myself the luckiest woman in the universe that John Green is my father. And now, if no one has any objection, just for a few seconds, I would like to ask John, may I have this chance?
Find out about me and then turn around and run. And I call my dad when I